Assalamu alaikum and hello again to the new episode of Halal Menu Please. My name is Zain Mohammed and today I am joined by someone who has been in the food industry for a very long time. He started his way from being a manager at Olive Garden and now owns Crypto Burger with 4 locations in the Houston area. Please welcome Mr. Asim Dar. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing, Zayn?
Good, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for coming out, taking some time out to come here today.
Anytime, man.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Asim Dar. I've been in the hospitality industry for about 14 years now. It's kind of been in my family for the longest time and kind of grew up around it my whole life. My father used to be a part of Dilbasant Partai back when we first moved to Texas early, like 2010. Used to take me to work with him all the time. I kind of got my first look at, like customer service. And I've noticed how my dad was just kind of fun to be around. Everybody loved to come see him. And it was great. So I kind of mimicked myself after him in a way and just kind of got into the industry, man. It wasn't even meant to be a career path for me. I grew up cooking my whole life and creating. It's been a hobby of mine. And it, like I said, it was never meant to turn into a career, but alhamdulillah, I get to follow my passion and do what I love.
That is very good to hear. So, do you have any early memories of being in Dilbasant?
So my dad was a partial owner, and rest his soul, he passed away in 2017 from cancer. So it was my younger years I got to spend with him, and I think I was only at the age of 14, 15 years old, still in high school. So the few times I did go with him, he also opened up a small little gyro stand inside, and he used to sell gyros before gyros were, I think the only place that was doing it was probably Jones at the time. I don't think that nobody else was even around yet. But he made me do stuff here and there, but it was most of it was just visualizing, seeing how he worked, and like my family always says that me and my father had same personalities when it comes to treating people, kind of making them feel welcome, and like you've known them, just meeting somebody for the first time, you feel like you know them forever. And I kind of felt like that's how it resonated business wise for him, and I kind of treat it similar to what I do right now.
Did you have a favorite mithai when you were there?
Man, honestly, I've always been a huge jalebi fan. I love it. I can't it's still till this day. If I see jalebi, I gotta eat it.
So, now that you own your own place, do you have a favorite place for jalebi?
Man, I'll be honest, man. I love Raja Sweets. Them and Bombay, they're both great. Those are the two that I tend to go towards more. But I think personally, I think it's because just like my family has always gone over there, and so I just kind of grew up going there myself. And my dad was really close with the owners of Raja as well, back in the day, and so I think we had a lot of Matai from there growing up. So it was just kind of accustomed to everything that they had, but Raja Sweets for me.
Very nice. So, as a kid, you would be in Dilpasan, and then you did your school, and then when did you start the job at Olive Garden?
Man, so being with my dad and also my uncle, when I was at, I think, late high school, going to college during the summer, I used to go work with my uncle. He used to own a Dairy Queen franchise in Kima, Texas.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I went there for a whole summer. I remember Monday through Friday would work there and be off on the weekends. I would go help him out, and from there was actually my first real look at customer service. Besides, I guess the family job, but before that, I was with Smoothie King in high school as well. So that was my first customer service experience. Mm-hmm. But then with my uncle was like a direct line, just because he was a franchisee and he'd been doing it for 30 years. He's retired now, but it was kind of a great eye opener for me, realizing that, hey, like I naturally enjoy talking to people, and it came to like food hand in hand. It's such a blessing to be able to feed people, and it just kind of, like I said, went hand in hand for me. So I really got to experience firsthand how that, the service industry worked from top to bottom. But then after that, I got into actually Olive Garden by accident. So actually I'd started at U of H as a freshman, and a friend of mine that I went to school with, she was like, "Hey, you should apply to Olive Garden as a host." Like at that time, I was like, "Man, I'm trying to get a job to help pay for school and everything." And so she's like, "Yeah, you should just apply as a host." And I was like, "Okay, I've never really worked in a restaurant like that before." So I was like, "All right." So I applied as a host, and I actually I interviewed, and when they had hired me, I showed up to the wrong training. I showed up for server training on
Oh wow.
accident. And the manager at the time, somebody that I'm still in contact with today, man, like 10, 11 years later, John, he was like, "Man, why don't you just stay and be a server instead?" And I was like, "No, no, no, I'm not comfortable talking to people like that and all that." And he was like, "No, just try it, man. Just try it. It's a little bit out of your comfort zone, but you'll enjoy it." And I'm glad I listened to him, because I think from that moment was, where I got out of my comfort zone, learned how to speak to people, um, and not just like customers, but your peers. When it comes to management, higher ups, and everything, you kind of learn this lingo in the restaurant industry of how everything works. But I think that day was like, I think what do you call it, a canon event. I forget what the term is, but something that's like meant to happen in your life to help you excel in the future. That was definitely one of those moments.
Very interesting. So, what is the difference between a host and a server?
Host,
I know what a
yeah.
server is. They go around
Yeah.
serving the food, but what would, in Olive Garden's definition, what is
Yeah.
a host?
So Darden, they own Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, about 70 other concepts. They recently acquired Cheddar's as well a couple years ago while I was still with the company, and I think they just actually purchased Chewy's as well. And so there's their version of host, your front of house. You greet customers when they come in. You have a POS system in front of you that helps seat. They have their own seating system, and that's pretty much what you do. You assist guests from the front of the house, front of the entrance, to the tables, and kind of make sure when tables are turning, they're getting cleaned, and they're open to seat next people. Server itself, you're attending to the tables yourself. Specifically with the Olive Garden branch, they have 3 tables per server, and you're kind of trained in that way to take care of all needs and everything. But and one of the things, just learning different personalities, I think is one of the biggest things from the job. Was nobody's the same. Everybody's different. Everybody has certain personalities. You get to learn body language. You get to learn in what situations you're uncomfortable, you're comfortable, or sorry, uncomfortable and comfortable. And it helps you grow, man. Like, it's a really person to person job. So you really have to speak. You're forced to speak. I'm glad I was able to do it, because it helped me a lot in other aspects of my life.
So after you first became a server, right?
Yes.
And then you became a host.
Yeah, so I never actually became a host. I was a server pretty much all throughout college. So then what happened was, my degree was in supply chain, and I knew that Darden, their corporate office is in Orlando, Florida, and I was like, man, I want to apply for that position, because I'd been with the company at that time for a while, and I wanted to see if I could get it. And they had told me, hey, you have to know the management side of things, the business side of things, and you have to get to the management level. And lucky enough, there was a whole panel I had to go through, and 90% of managers and GMs and directors are all hired internally with Darden. So I went through a panel of couple months actually, before they offered me a position as a manager, and did that for a while, man. And that was a whole different eye opener, and that's what kind of led me into interviewing for. I did the management, and then I was interviewing for that supply chain position. But in that opportunity of interviewing for that position, that's when I did the restaurant, L&H Cafe. So that was what kind of made the turn.
So you did them simultaneously?
No. So
okay.
At the end of my Olive Garden career, that's when I left to go ahead and do the restaurant, L&H Cafe.
So was it at Olive Garden that you learned how to cook?
No, actually, I've been doing since as a probably an early teenager, to be honest with you. And I till this day I can't explain it. Everybody grows up watching cartoons and stuff. I did too myself, but then I don't know what caught my eye, and it's a vivid memory of mine that I remember just going through channels as a young kid, and I landed on the Food Network, and the Emerald Live was the show that I always watched, Chef Emerald Lagasse, and I still follow him on socials and everything till this day. And he always had this iconic phrase: whenever he added salt, it was like bam, bam, like whatever he did. And it just stuck out to me, and I was catch myself watching it all the time. And at that time, I don't know anything about food. Like I just ate whatever my mom made at home, you know? Like I don't know what he's cooking. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if I don't know anything. I'm just watching this, you know, I'm looking back at it and I'm like, what why was I watching this? I have no idea. And then I used to watch my mom cook all the time and then somehow just generated into this huge interest. And then I remember cooking. First thing I ever cooked was eggs, an omelet, messed up horribly. And then I remember got a little bit older. I discovered garlic powder, and I used to make like the Kraft mac and cheese at home,
Hmm.
and I would add garlic powder to it. And I swear I thought I was the coolest guy ever. But it's just little stuff like that that I've been doing since I was young, and that's something a side of me that I feel like fully portrayed yet because that's essentially what grew my passion, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the hospitality industry. But yeah, the cooking part, you know, that came from when I was young.
So in that you started making burgers and wings
Mm.
and stuff like
Yeah, and
that.
that was stuff I grew up making at home, and you know, alhamdulillah, it's been a blessing to take what I've made for fun at home with friends or whatever it may be, and then kind of put it into a business setting and having it be, you know, an item that folks love. So, alhamdulillah, man.
So what does the LNH stand for?
So I did
That's something I've always wanted
yeah.
to know ever since you had that store.
So we had it 3 years, and LNH Cafe stood for Ludo and Hookah. At that time, you know, when we first opened, it was more of a hookah lounge scene,
Hmm.
and you know, that was something that we did. We had a bunch of Ludo boards, we had a bunch of hookahs, and you know, it was cool in the beginning. We had that stuff. It was kind of name created on the whim, and we're like, hey, let's not think too deep about it. And so we did it. So we named it, came up with a logo. Menu took a while to do. But yeah, LNH Cafe stood for Ludo and Hookah.
So what was that moment at Olive Garden that made you decide, okay, I need to open up my own restaurant?
You know, honestly, this is another pivotal moment in my life. I remember I had this opportunity to do the restaurant. And I remember being in my office at Olive Garden, and I was like, I have to make a decision. And I was like, and you know, maybe this is something very negative about me, but I don't like to take risks. I like to play it safe. And, you know, constantly going back and forth for weeks to put, you know, debating what I want to do, man. I've been with this company so long. You know, I got my degree from U of H. Like, I got to go get this corporate job. You know, that's kind of like the what's drilled into you, right? And, you know, honestly, I I did it because I didn't want myself years down the road to be like, hey, I had an opportunity to do something that I love, but I was too afraid to do it. And I feel like that regret would have eaten me up alive if I never did it. And it probably would have bothered me probably for the rest of my life. Honestly, it's something that I love to do, and then an opportunity presented itself. And keep in mind, at that time, like I wasn't. It's not like I was fully trained to run my own restaurant business, right? You know, at the end of the day, Olive Garden's a corporate business.
Right.
Majority of things are handled by corporate. You know,
Right.
like but alhamdulillah, man, I had decided to do it. It was a tough decision, but you know, alhamdulillah, you know, fast forward now, 4 or 5 years later, you know, alhamdulillah, it's paid off.
Yeah. So I remember at that time that LNH in Porter was very
Mm,
groundbreaking because
mm,
it was the first place to have halal burgers and wings
mhm,
in that part of town.
definitely.
So what made you want to do the burgers and wings as opposed to Desi food?
Yeah, so first and foremost, that's something I was comfortable making, something I've done all, you know, that was second nature to me. Um, but I think the main thing for doing halal food in general, because one, the lack thereof up there in Kingwood, Porter, and that whole north side part of town. And I thought, you know, it's a good opportunity to do something like this here. And I didn't want to do desi food. You know, there were always times where, you know, people were like, hey, you should do biryani, do this and that. And I'm like, dude,
Oh
that's
Lord.
not my thing. Why would I even bother, you know? So I did something that I was comfortable with that kind of fit a menu that fit towards the folks that were Muslim and then also to the local community.
So what was the initial reaction when people found out that LNH was halal?
No, alhamdulillah, it was a great response, man. I mean, when we first launched it, there was a lot of buzz and locally for us from Kingwood and Porter. And I think at that time, honestly, like food bloggers, food marketers were it was a thing. I mean, honestly, it was you and maybe like a small handful of other people that were just getting started. And it wasn't a huge thing back then yet, other than you and a couple other people, but it was literally all local. Like we were able to generate a good buzz for marketing for about a month, and a great opening and stuff like that. But like it's one of those things where you have to weather the storm. When you first open, you got the lines, you got the crowds. Then it's like, what, once that hype dies down a little bit, and now the real work starts. So
So was that same enthusiasm shared with the non-Muslims, the locals in
yeah.
Porter?
So when we, now looking back at the whole journey of it, I realized probably 95% of the clientele when we first opened all Muslim. And, you know, learning a lot about myself and what I needed to do to appeal to the entire community, not just the Muslim community. I did things like joining the Chamber of Commerce, local Chamber of Commerce, and meeting a bunch of other business owners in the Montgomery County, becoming cool with them, getting to know them on a first name basis. And once they knew about LNH, that was the first initial push we had of non-Muslim clientele that came in. And then, I mean, by the time that we ended that tenure, honestly, probably it was almost 50-50 between Muslim and non-Muslim that would come in. So we're doing a great push of having a local community come in was a great help.
That is very good to hear. So I remember like your top seller was the Bunka burger. Was this before your marriage?
Yeah, so
or-
I had my nikah done. So we weren't married. We weren't living together yet. So my wife, shout out Anka Jelani over here. I remember when I was making the menu. I was graduated from U of H and she was in her senior year. And I remember I went to U of H and I actually was working on the menu. I brought my USB drive and I was working at the oh god, no, not the UC. Man, I forgot.
UC Satellite, maybe?
Not satellite. What was the area in the library that nobody ever got work on?
LC.
LC. That's what it was. I remember sitting in the LC. I worked on that on and off for about a month and a half, but I finished it. I remember at the LC, and I remember I was talking to her. I was like, I need I did a spicy burger. I had everything, ingredients, everything. I just couldn't think of a name. And I remember her telling me, we were talking about a story that day that, from her childhood, she was called Bunka sometimes. And as a joke, I was like, man, I'll just call it a Bunka burger, right? And because at that time, I remember I was so mentally exhausted from like making the menu. And I was like, I'm not going to waste any more brain power on the name of this item. Like the item, everything on it is done. I just need a name. So I was like, all right, Bunka burger, let's throw it on there. And alhamdulillah, I mean, she says because it's a blessing from she's my wife that it's been so popular. But I mean, alhamdulillah, man, it stuck. Even when we did it at LNH, when locals would come in, they're like, "Oh, what is a bunka?" And then it's a fun story to tell because they're like, "Oh, that's so sweet," all this and that. And honestly, when we did crypto, she wouldn't let me change it, so she was like, "You got to keep it." I was like, "All right, fair enough."
I also remember you having some chicken items at LNH.
Yeah.
There's one thing I remember the Whataburger version. What was the idea behind that?
And so whenever I would try to, especially in that part of town, create something new on the menu that I would do, at that time, maybe one other halal spot that was there. Now there's more in that part of town. But when I did a spicy honey butter fried chicken sandwich, and that was nod to the honey butter chicken biscuit from Whataburger. And I remember growing up, like, man, we always wanted to try that. It always looked good. I remember going to high school right down the road from where I opened the restaurant, always wanting a honey butter fried chicken sandwich or something from Whataburger, because you always hear about like Texas and Whataburger.
Very true.
They started selling the honey butter sauce at HEB, and at that time it was pretty brand new. I think they had just launched it, and this was even before they started selling their HEB spicy ketchup or anything else in the store.
Right.
And I was like, dude, I'm making a chicken sandwich out of this. And I remember, we were doing the research and development over it. I used to always have my set of friends. I used to always come try out the food. I would text them like, "Hey man, I'm making this. Come by and try it out." So I remember I did it. Everybody loved it, and it was just great because we fried our chicken fresh. We took the honey butter sauce, added a kick to it, and we just dipped the whole thing in there. We put it on Texas toast, jalapenos, and cheese, and it was a great meal, man. It was one of the most popular chicken sandwiches that we did.
Yeah, I remember that taste too. It was that good. So COVID happens. And the one thing I noticed, which is very rare among places, especially nowadays, was the fact that you removed hookah from the menu.
Mm.
Why did that happen?
Yeah, so I noticed, as time goes on, like I said, we were a hookah lounge that had, food that people rated pretty highly locally, and I came to a point where where every restaurant or food business has an identity, and I had a choice to make between, do I want to be seen as a hookah lounge or do I want to be known for my food? And not to say you can't have both, but I think the day that it hit me of what route I needed to take was that I had this local family that came in, non-Muslim family, and we were pretty busy at the time, and we had maybe 3 4 tables on the side that were smoking hookah. They were eating food. Family came in, and they had their grandparents, they had their grandchildren, and little kids with them, and the husband and wife, I guess they were repeat diners. They had been there several times, but it was either through like Uber Eats or they had dined in one time. And they didn't know about hookah, right? So they came in, and at that part of town, a lot of people aren't really familiar with hookah. Now I'm sure they are, but they came in. The place was kind of smoky, and the husband and wife came up to me, and they knew me personally. They were like, "Hey, look, man, we love your food, man. Everything was great, but we got kids, man. I got my grandparents here. I can't have them be around this stuff and whatnot." And that moment, I was like, I'm getting rid of it. I was like, I don't care to be known for the hookah. At that time,
Wow.
the hookah was a thing because there wasn't a hookah lounge around. Even me and my
Right.
friends, we lived in Kingwood. We always, at that time, always ended up going to La Basha, or Nara
Yeah.
or something like that. But there was nothing north side, so like, hey man, let's do the hookah lounge so people don't have to go far away, And but that was it, man. I was like, you know what? No, alhamdulillah, it was such a great response on the food that I was like, I need to get rid of the hookah. And alhamdulillah, business increased after we got rid of it. Once we started announcing it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a great turn of business, and I think a lot of it has to do, that part of town is a little more old school, a little more country. I had a lot of times people would see a hookah, they would think that it's marijuana, it's illegal, all this and that, and they weren't very well educated on it, and so it made the transition that much easier.
Mm.
Versus, if I would have had people that came for hookah 24/7 and that was my main thing and I got rid of it, I'm sure it would have been a little more detrimental. But I think the lack of knowledge from a local community kind of made it a little bit easier. But the main thing was like, man, look, I'm not turning away people just because I have hookah here, and they're coming to me and telling me the food is great, they'd love to support, but they can't dine in because of that. I was like, nah, we gotta get rid of it.
Imagine if more places were more accommodating to non-smokers,
Yeah,
especially nowadays.
no, true, true. And I feel like I think there's only like what, one place that does non-smokers, or there are none, or I don't even know.
I only know that Lava can do like a private dining room
Mm-hmm.
and Hayes as well on
Mm-hmm.
Westheimer. That's the only other place that I can
Yeah.
recall that does
Mm-hmm.
a non-smoking area. Like for me, I have to try the food from hookah
Mm-hmm.
places with either delivery
Mm-hmm.
or maybe somebody going and picking up with me and me giving them the card to pay because that
Definitely not fun.
smoke was is just too
Yeah.
much for me to
It's not for
handle.
everyone. And, it's funny what you're looking back on it. Life is like a full circle, man. Because now I think of that same family all the time that came in and told me that, right? And now I look at it as a father now because I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I think to myself, I'm like, dude, like if I went to a place, I'm not taking my daughter to a hookah lounge. I mean, parents that do, more power to you. That everybody's their makes their own decisions. But I was like,
Right.
I'm not gonna put my daughter around all that as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, whatever it may be. And I feel even more for that family, the parents that came up to me and told me that, So now I kind of look at it from the other spectrum. So well, funny man, everything kind of relates.
So it's COVID time.
Hmm.
And so what made you decide that you're going to transition from a brick and mortar to a food truck?
Right. So there were conversations that were being had about that I wanted to do a food truck, and it was going to be LNH related, but it was going to open in South. Initially, that was the idea behind it, because anybody that came out to support, or whether it was from you or from any of the other Muslim bloggers that came out. They were like, "Man, you got to go south, man. Like this is too far." And you know everybody knows that. Anybody that lives in Kingwood and Porter, and to all my friends that are listening to this, Kingwood and Porter, you guys know it sucks to live there. So like, there's nothing there. I mean, like you know, I tell my friends all the time now because now I stay in Sugar Land. It's been about 2 years, and the difference is night and day. I was like, dude, I'm thankful for the Kingwood community I grew up in. That'll always be my community. When I go back, everything feels like home. You know, people that I've seen growing up in front of my eyes, seeing me grow up, uncles, aunties, everything. That will always be home. But when it comes to like a quality of life, I'm like, man, dude, that's not it. You know, it's and it's just one of those things, man. That whenever COVID hit, you know, obviously it changed a lot of things, and I think at that time we were ready to pull the plug on the restaurant. Well, actually, not, we were planning was to do the restaurant and the food truck, and come that time, I remember the building was fast forward to the end of that year. The building was in bad shape, and there were things that were just not going in the same direction. So we ultimately decided to just do the food truck and not do the restaurant anymore. And then you know partnered up with my cousins, who you know they've been a great part of the success as well because you know nobody does it on their own. And, you know, like alhamdulillah, the food part, you know, that's been stamped by folks like you and other people in the community even before we opened Crypto Burger.
Right.
And alhamdulillah, so many people got to even know about L&H Cafe because of you guys, and being all the way in Porter, you know, like that's unheard of. You know, to me, that's just mind blowing. So by the time we had opened Crypto and we came up with the theme of that, you know, we realized that, hey, you know, every food truck needs a theme. So day one since we opened, man, alhamdulillah, it's been great.
So, what made you come up with the crypto theme?
You know, when we were kind of brainstorm about a theme, because the menu was already set. You know, we knew we were going to do burgers. We think the burgers from L&H, they've been a hit at the restaurant. They'll be hit, inshallah, in the South as well. And the theme, that's one of the things that people kind of overlook, you know, and a lot of success is dependent, you know, of course, you know, mostly on the food as well, but you got to have some sort of branding and theme, right? And if we were going to do this, we were going to do it right. And honestly, the best, you know, Allah's the best of planners, man. And I've noticed every single idea that has come my way or our way, whether it be about life or whether it be about work, it comes when I am not thinking about it.
Interesting.
When I'm not trying to sit there and figure something out. Something happens, I see something, or, you know, conversations randomly happen, and then it just hits you. And I've learned to trust that feeling. And, you know, ironically with crypto, you know, me and my cousins and my father-in-law, and, you know, we were talking about crypto. And then, you know, I remember one day father-in-law says like, hey, you guys should just call it Crypto Burger right at the time. And it was so funny because like everybody hated it. Nobody liked that name. We're like, this sounds
Really?
We were like, this sounds fobby, like Crypto Burger. Like it sounds like somebody that just randomly, I don't know. We did not like it at the time, right? And then I remember it just kind of went quiet, and then we're just like, wait a minute, like this could be something, you know, here. Like I don't think there's any crypto theme stuff out there, and started doing our research, and we're like, you know what, like let's just do it. Let's pick some colors that are out there, purple and orange and white. You know, you don't normally see purple orange like that. Like, okay, you know what, let's do this colors. We had a mock of the wrap made, and then before you knew it, you know, we had this physical thing in front of us, a logo, a wrap, and it all just came together. It was you know, at that time, I believe it was the bull market as well. So crypto was up, you know, along with stocks during COVID as well. Or sorry, stocks had crashed, but crypto was booming. And if I'm not mistaken, because I remember people were always joking with us about crypto, and you know, the theme came from there, and then kind of you put two things together, the food and the theme, and you know, it's so funny, like people don't even refer to us as Crypto Burger. Like anybody that talks about crypto, they'll say, like, hey, have you been to crypto? And if you're talking to an outsider, they're like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what do you mean, have you been to crypto? And it's so there's little things like that, you know, I've noticed. I'm like, oh, people that just refer to us as crypto. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. You're known for the burger. You know, so just call it crypto. Don't even say Crypto Burger. But that's kind of where it came from, man. It was literally accidental. Wasn't even during like a brainstorming session or anything like that. And we ran with it, man. We didn't try to overthink it or try to change it in any way. We just went with it, man.
So, was it easy to transition from a brick and mortar to to a food truck, or was it like somewhat okay? Or was it very difficult?
I think going from a brick and mortar, whether it be corporate with Olive Garden or whether it be my own place, the food truck is 100 times easier. Um, by the time it came into the food truck, it's so much smaller compared to a big commercial kitchen. And I was a little different when it came to getting like a permits of food trucks. A little bit different process than doing a brick and mortar, but inspection wise, a little different than brick and mortar. Of course, with the food trucks, you got to go to the inspection sites versus obviously you have a brick and mortar. People are coming to you because with the restaurant, I went through fire marshal inspections, went through health inspections and everything, and they come to you, and it's a little different than the food trucks. But when it comes down to the business of things, much easier. Now, I'm sure at some point getting it started is easier than a brick and mortar for sure, 100%. And
Interesting.
financially wise, just workload wise, because a lot of the experience from the restaurant, man, I was doing 14, 15-hour days and a lot of ups and downs. But it's almost like a rite of passage that went through the struggles of doing the brick and mortar, learning everything, getting the menu right, getting things right. And then by the time we got to the food truck, everything was like ready to go, systematically wise. I mean, there were still things to learn, of course. Don't get me wrong, but the transition was not too bad for me at all.
So, if you were to start all from scratch, looking back, if you told your younger self, what would you tell him? Would you tell him to go to a food truck first, or would you rather have him start out in the brick and mortar?
Funny thing is, as much as I struggled like mentally, physically, with the restaurant, because again, that was my learning phase. Like to me, when I look back at it, LNH Cafe was my learning phase. I don't view it as a failure. I don't think of it as something negative. I think everything that I have today, everything that has come this our way in our favor has become because of the struggles that came from the restaurant. And I mean, it was a great time. And I think the thing I value the most is the experience that I gained from doing the 2 3 years over there, and things that went wrong, knowing things from things such as quality control and uh, properly making a menu and doing everything that requires with that. It was definitely one of those things that worked well, and I would not change anything, man. Honestly, if I could go through that again, I would do it again. Because honestly, if I would have done the straight food truck route right after I left Olive Garden, you know, without knowing the things that I knew, I don't think it would have been a success.
Interesting. So you got the food truck name, and you said earlier that you wanted to bring the stuff from L&H down. Was there anything when at the time you opened that was brand new introduced at the truck?
I think actually, I don't think I had introduced anything new because the LNH menu we had, wings, Phillies, chicken, the burgers. We wanted to focus on being a burger joint, and I took all my burgers off of that menu, and we added it to the crypto menu. So we had a base menu, I believe, of 6, 7 burgers at the time that I took off the LNH menu. We put on there, just kind of rebranded the names, and we didn't do anything new. We kept it simple. And now, alhamdulillah, every couple of months we like to try something new, put it out. We were able to add, I think, in these last almost 3 years, we added 2 burgers to the permanent menu, I believe, since then. The rest we just kind of keep promotional, rotate them out throughout the year. But no, the same burgers, man. Same recipes that we had from LNH. We opened up at Crypto Burger down here.
So, and all of them were beef, right?
beef,
No
yeah.
chicken or
Yeah,
anything?
we didn't do any chicken starting off at Crypto or anything like that. So those are all still in the vault.
So, why didn't the chicken start?
So I knew that if we had done chicken and beef in the truck, for us personally, the goal is to get food out in an adequate amount of time and not have long wait times, which I'm sure everybody's experienced. You go to a food truck, you go to a restaurant or something, sometimes the food may take very long. And, to have a positive customer experience, obviously the food's got to be fresh, it's got to be good. That, you don't want people waiting a long time. And when I created the menu, it was streamlined to get the food out quickly. Because then we got the beef patty. The only differences might be the cheese and the toppings, right? So we know that most our most popular burgers might get the white American cheese. So we know majority of that. Hey, we got burgers on the grill. We know we just got what cheese is going on there. And while we're toasting the buns, we know the toppings that go on the burger. So that way, it's kind of a whole streamline issue uh, that solves that waiting time. So even now till this day, I've heard comments from folks that will go to festivals, will go to big events and everything, right? And people have these long lines and whatnot. And, it's funny. I want to clear this misconception up that people think that if you have the longest lines, that you're automatically the most popular, right? But in reality, they're just taking a long time to get the food out. Uh, if you notice us at events, we have a system where people barely have to wait. We know at events that, hey, we're limiting our menu. We're going to limit it to 2 items that we know we can get out super fast. People don't want to wait at big events, stuff like that. So you rarely ever see a line that we have, because as soon as they pay, we got it right there for them. And so we're able to turn that around. But adding chicken to the menu, we did actually try it out for a month. We did a chicken sandwich just to try it out. And we noticed longer ticket times. It was kind of messing with our flow of business, especially during peak times on the weekends where we're the busiest. So we ultimately scrapped it. But if we were to do chicken, man, we would do another truck just for the chicken items.
So, what was the reaction like in the South? Was it more than the North, or?
Oh, for sure, man. Because like the North, Kingwood area, I grew up in that community, right? So it was great local support. Abdul and Hassan, my cousins, they grew up in this part of town, so they lived their whole life over here. So they are deep rooted in the community. So of course they have family friends that want to come out and support them. Like they're being a part of a food truck. Versus me, like I really all my friends are up north. But people knew that the burgers were good because all of you guys that were advertising, hey, like L&H Cafe is now Crypto Burger. The burgers are the same. We're gonna go try it out and everything. And people always knew, even the folks that never got to try L&H Cafe. I would then my DM a message be like, hey man, like food looks awesome, but it's just too far. One thing we always heard, and people were like, hey, if I have to go to the airport, I'll stop by. But it's just it's a perfect storm of things, man. Great local support even down here. Everybody coming to try it out, man. We've had great response since we first opened, and just kind of one of the main things for us trying to maintain the integrity of the menu, the food itself, keeping it simple. The burgers are not crazy difficult. They're not 10 different items on there. Max 2, 3. Keep it simple. I don't like to complicate things, but alhamdulillah, man, it's worked out.
Alhamdulillah, indeed. So I know your top seller is the Bunka burger, right? What are the next two top sellers?
The second one, I think by far now, is the Bull Run, which is a slight spicier version than the Bunka burger, right? So the Bull Run is going to be, you have your Serrano chilies versus the Bunka that has the jalapenos. You have the spicy fomo sauce, which is our spicy garlic sauce that goes on this burger instead of the regular garlic sauce that goes on the Bunka. We add the halal beef bacon on this burger that the Bunka doesn't have. And that's essentially the main differences between the both. It's just a spicier version of a bunka. Folks that like that extra kick of heat because it does have the raw serranos in it, so people eat it. That would be the second most popular one. And then honestly, the third, man, it's in the air because the third one you could either go to the crypto melt, which is our version. Again, that was a Whataburger inspired patty melt burger that we have. Texas toast, grilled onions, garlic sauce, cheese patty. Or maybe even the Satoshi, man. The Satoshi is like the barbecue bacon burger we do. It's got the halal beef bacon, onion rings, barbecue sauce, garlic sauce. Somewhere between those two, man. And then ironically, I think now with 4 locations, if you look at all of them combined, our DeFi is really up there, which is the most basic burger, like the classic lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, mustard, which is cool because some people, they don't like to go, out of their comfort zone and try different stuff, man. So some people stick with the classic, but definitely, if I had to think off the top of my head, I'd probably go with the Satoshi as the third one, to be honest. Yeah.
Interesting. So, what goes into the pricing of these burgers? Because I read a lot but people complaining that, oh, food truck places are always overpriced compared to
Hmm.
brick and mortar. Like, what
I
goes
got
into
you.
the
So I think a lot of it has to do with the culture as well, right? So when you think of food trucks, rewind to maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? Food trucks were seen as a mobile food unit where typically you get less expensive food
right?
compared to a full-on restaurant, right? And fast forward till today, food truck scene is such a huge scene now that where people are, you know, deciding they're gonna go eat at a food truck over a restaurant.
Right.
That's how much respect the industry has gotten with food trucks. And honestly, you have the even if you separate the brick and mortars and food trucks and trailers, the the quality and the items, the creativity, the marketing of some even food trucks exceed those of brick and mortars, and some of them are even making food that are better than some restaurants. And when it comes to the pricing, you know, it's not any secret, that crypto burger is priced higher than most people, right? When it comes to a burger, and for us, a lot of different things factor into that, and for one thing, we use more beef in our burgers, so you're not going
Hmm.
to get a tiny burger from us right now. And then things, of course, we have to think about how the market fluctuates, right? Now, I would much rather if because the cost of goods skyrocket. I'm
Right.
talking, crazy, and I would much rather, if I have to raise my prices because of the cost of goods, I'd rather do it one time early versus it. Whenever it hikes up, I've already done it. I don't need to go ahead and keep on up and downing my prices. I don't want to be inconsistent. And once we do it, we make a change of it, we make it happen. And then on top of that, what's one thing, we take care of our team as well. So it's something that we factor into our pricing as well. That hey, typically when you look at labor percentages for your business, our team, alhamdulillah, is paid better than a lot of other food trucks and even restaurant
Hmm.
people. And it goes to the saying that like, hey, we treat our staff very well. Alhamdulillah, they are the bread and butter of our business, and the respect that is shown to them, like we are nothing without them. And they help keep this dream alive. They're the engine of what we do, and it's just about getting the team together, building the right team, and making sure that hey, like they feel like they're being taken care of, and they're gonna ultimately take care of us, which alhamdulillah they have.
That is very nice to
Mm.
hear. So now you have what, four locations now?
Alhamdulillah for now.
What went into the thought process of determining which locations?
A lot of it, you look at whether it be so out of our four locations, three of them are in food truck parks. So we kind of copy pasted. The first one was in Musa Colony. We decided, hey, look, man, we want to be in a food truck park because that's where the foot traffic is at. So restaurants, you have people that come to the restaurant, you have the foot traffic with, if you're somebody really popular. Food truck park like Musa Colony, and when we joined Musa Colony, it was prime Musa Colony,
Right.
and where crazy amount of people on the weekends. It probably even increased much more even after us, a year after us, and it's one of those things where it's like we're gonna copy paste that, go to the next food truck park, Chimney Rock, and you have the foot traffic there, and then Bow Basin, now we're over there, and it's funny that Bow Basin is less than 10 minutes away from Musa Colony. But the thought behind it is that hey, you have two locations close to each other, which normally you wouldn't do, but you have to understand that families go to both places, and the families that go to each place, they're going there. They're not stopping by both places. They're either going to Bow Basin or they're either going to Musa Colony. They made up their mind. And if we have both there, alhamdulillah, it's worked out for us so far, doing that risk. But yeah, man. And when it comes to other decisions, as far as looking at location, demographic, what's nearby, is it a popular area, kind of different things we look at.
Was it easy for you to collaborate or get us do social media after you open up crypto? Or
Honestly, it was so tough for us to do social media. It and I think any business owner will tell you that they're running their own business. Social media is one of the things that often gets neglected because you have so much more other stuff going on,
very
right?
true.
Creating content, trying to do different stuff, and alhamdulillah for us, that's one part of our business that we have put our foot on the gas with right now, and we are trying to emphasize on social media, whether it be, like, and it's just, and the important thing is just having fun with it, putting yourself out there, doing something that's not in your comfort zone. Because I was like, hey, any decision that I've ever made that required me to get out of my comfort zone eventually has worked out for me. So I'm like, hey, look, this is no different. So, but yeah.
But what about like collaborations? Was that easy to come by?
Yeah, so collaborations, alhamdulillah, we had a lot of people that we collabed with in the past, and I don't think, we never went searching for it. It kind of, as we worked hard and grew the business, things, folks approached us, different people approached us about doing things, and we always thought it was a cool idea. And for me, if it makes sense, whether it be like a food item or something, I don't mind doing it, man. Because we did, I remember one of the most popular burgers that we did, man, was the crypto smoke burger we did with the barbecue guys, man. Oh, forgive me, I forget their name, man. Primitive Smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with them, we did the brisket burger, and that was super popular, man. We did that, and we've done other collabs in the past. We did an Inferno burger that we used the Inferno sauce from Wing It, which was a super spiciest sauce, and that was crazy. And it's fun stuff for social media, and it's cool to work with other people and kind of create something for the public.
And so, do you have any memorable events you've been to?
Yeah, man. I mean, Halal Fest, definitely one of them. That's something unique that, you can look back at when you're 20, 30 years down the road. Like, hey, man, like we did the first Halal Fest in Houston. We've done it almost every year. Crazy event. This is events that lead up to that, the prep and everything. And of course, the events that we do at the Mushids, man, Mardi Mushids especially, when they have big nights, and it feels like a mini festival itself. But it's always cool to go to different parts of town, man, and different demographics, people that might have not had a chance to try you out, and that's probably the funnest part about it.
Did you realize that when you guys became popular with non-Muslims, that, hey, we need to really put ourselves out there?
Yeah, man, it's important to differentiate yourself from, not to market towards one demographic, right? And for us, alhamdulillah, being our main location in Sugar Land, that location might be predominant Muslim. Now you go to other locations, it might not be, right? And for one thing, we don't want to lean towards one side. We're serving a product that is not exclusive to anybody. Everybody eats burgers,
right?
And it's great. Like, everybody, like the marketing that we do, the burger styles that we make, the toppings and everything. It's not leaning towards anybody in particular. We could see like our Musa Colony location, the spicier burgers sell most, like it kind of makes sense, right? And then you look at other location, Med Center and, Chimney Rock and all that, where, the burgers that are not spicy, our D5s, our Crypto Melts, those are the ones that are the most popular, so it's every location is different, but it's important to differentiate yourself. Everybody can eat a burger. Everybody has a different, palate, different taste, and alhamdulillah, we've been able to hit on all the markets.
So we have about 10 minutes remaining, so I want to get to a couple of general questions that I want to start asking. So tell us about a couple of your crazy customer experiences.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, we haven't had a crypto burger that like super, super crazy that I can like really think of, but I'll tell you what, man, the worst customers we've dealt with are actually at the Mushid events. Okay.
What?
Believe it or not, it is at the Mushid events, man. And I don't know what it is. It's, if I had to generalize, not every event, obviously, but majority of our worst customer interactions have been at Mushid events, and primarily due to folks being very impatient. It just blows my mind. There might be a speaker that comes, speaks about great things and whatnot. And as soon as these folks get out of the Mushid and they're waiting in line for food, I don't know what happens. A switch flips. Not all, but there's people that would just start arguing about, hey, I need this, I need that, I need my burger, what's going on? I've been waiting, all this and that. I need to go. Look, sir, we're serving hundreds and hundreds of people, right? We're trying to make sure that we serve everybody, right? And folks just become extremely impatient, and it's just a weird concept. You go to the mushids for religious reasons, and then you come out and then you just start being mean and rude and everything like that. But nothing in particular that stands out, but just people being very impatient and might kind of make it about themselves about, I need to go, I do all this and that. I'm like, sir, look, you're serving like 100 people right now, man. You're going to have a 10, 15 minute wait. But nothing you take personal, it happens. But Ironically, much of the events.
That's wild.
Yep.
And so at the end of every interview, I'd like to ask, so you know that Aga's is like one of the most popular restaurants in
Hmm.
Houston, and so many people, regardless of religion and race, they love going there.
Hmm.
What are your three favorite spots in town not named Aga's?
Okay, number one for me, hands down, and any of my friends, family will tell you this. Number one for me is Steak 48. Okay, Steak 48 generally is not a complete halal menu. They do have several halal cuts on their menu, and till this day, inshallah, I never run into a situation. If I'm ever on death row for a crime and I need a last meal, I'm getting that 12-ounce Wagyu. I'm getting a medium. I'm getting the corn brulee side. I'm getting the macaroni cheese, the whipped potatoes, and then I'm getting the red velvet bread pudding for dessert. That is my menu down. Like, we don't even look at the menu when we go to Steak 48, but that Steak 48 number one for me. Number two for me, Reza.
Oh yeah,
I love Reza, and the only reason it does not take number one for me is because Steak 48 for me is something special. It's some place that my wife and I go on our anniversaries, special events. We don't overdo it because you could easily go. I mean, if you're going to Steak 48, a couple times a month, one time a month, it might kill like it's not, it doesn't feel as special anymore.
right.
So that's why Reza's not number one for me. But Reza, man, you cannot go wrong with anything from there, man. I love the kubede kebabs. I love the chicken. They do everything right. Phenomenal. They have a phenomenal product over there, man, and that's something I could eat every day. Third one, is a hard choice, but I love Thai food, right? And I love Asian inspired food. So there's actually a newer spot in Sugar Land called Thai Town.
Yes, they are
And
very good.
I love Thai Town, and I always two staple dishes that I get from every Thai place. One is pad Thai,
Right,
and one is yellow curry.
right.
Two things that I love, and the owner, I forget her name. She's so nice over there, and I like my pad Thai just a little extra saucy, not so much on the dry side. They make it perfect there, and then the yellow curry, I love it. I get a level 3 spice. I get it with no potatoes. I get extra thing of white rice. Phenomenal, man. I just love the flavors. They're doing it right, and I love how they have just blown up ever since doing a fully halal menu. Like, now you try to go there on a dinner night, like, you better have a reservation, man, because they're packed.
Yeah, it was even packed at lunch. I went there during the weekend. I went on Monday. I was actually off work, so I was gonna catch the movie. So I wanted to try Thai Town because
Good, man.
I wanted to see how it is after nearly a year of going, and
Yep.
it was so
It's
good.
man. I
My
love it.
only gripe was that if you want to substitute the white for the fried rice, it's $5.
Oh, I did not know that.
Because I've always loved fried rice at any Thai restaurant
Right.
at any Thai restaurant,
Mhm.
and it's a little pricey in my opinion, but it's absolutely worth every penny.
Definitely.
Reza was actually Ali's number one
Yeah.
when he did the interview. And
What
what did you think of them adding a tandoori chicken curry?
I'm not a huge fan of folks stepping away from their menu, especially when it's like I feel like they were probably bombarded by South Asian folks saying that, hey, we want something with spice, something with spice. Middle Eastern food, man, is not like South Asian cuisine. Everything is different. You don't need those in your face type of spices. You don't need to feel that heat in your mouth. It's more mellow. You taste the beef. Like it's a completely separate thing. There's a reason why you only need like some butter to put on your kebab and rice and eat it with it. You don't need everything else.
Right.
It just kind of shows me you're trying to appease to your customers, but if alhamdulillah, you're already good at what you do, you don't need to do that.
Right.
I understand if somebody who's not that popular that is trying to do everything they can to try to survive, they're going to try to do whatever they can. Understandable. You're trying to make it. But for somebody that is alhamdulillah doing well, you don't need to do that. And what's next? You're gonna add biryani to the menu. You're gonna add kadai to the menu, all this and that, and it just kind of, to me personally, it takes away from the core menu what you are known for.
All right, awesome. We're almost out of time here at the library. Thank you so much for taking time coming.
Not a problem, brother.
Thank you guys for listening. The next episode will be out next week. Then I'll be taking off Thanksgiving, and then I'll be back in December. Until then, take care, be well, assalamu alaikum.